Welcome, everybody, to this week's Café Hangout. I am praying that you can all hear us and that is perfectly fine right now because we've been going through a crazy number of technical difficulties and things of that nature today. So hopefully this is all good. If not, you guys will get this after the fact and the recording should be perfect. But John, please take it away.
Well, welcome everybody to the Café Hangout. I wish everyone could have been behind the scenes here in our studio for the last 10 minutes to watch Wai totally MacGyver this thing. But we are live and we are joined by Voices of Wrestling's Rich Kraetsch, who is on the line with us to make everything seamless. Rich, how are you doing today?
Oh no, I always have technical difficulties, so I hope that is not a lot of fun. But no, thank you guys for having me. This is quite the honor to be on the Café Hangout, and I'm excited.
Well, we want to have you on. Of course, we're in the midst of the G1 season. You guys are doing your traditional excellent coverage of the tournament, but starting off with some very sad news today. It was actually All Elite Wrestling who just tweeted this out recently. The passing of Harley Race, who we had known had been hospitalized recently. Very sad. Obviously, one of those major names, Rich, in pro wrestling history, multiple time NWA champion, influential for so many people, and just obviously very sad story knowing he had been in poor health and passing away on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, unfortunately, he felt like one of those, and we had seen the conversations and we'd seen the reports that things were not going well, and it was like one of these things where it was like, oh no, this is going to be inevitable. It's going to probably, unfortunately happen at some point pretty soon. And then it seemed to kind of die down a little bit where you didn't hear those reports, because I feel like it was a few months ago where we heard that it was like very dire for him. I forgot who was reporting that at the time, and then it felt like, okay, he's doing better, he's in better spirits, like things are going pretty well. And then obviously the news just a few minutes ago after we started this recording is it's unfortunate. He's a guy that probably a generation before me, but a guy that I've gone back and watched some of his stuff and try to appreciate a little bit. It's maybe not a style that I necessarily gravitate towards all that much, but it's undeniable how much of an impact he had on pro wrestling history. And I'm sure, it's another one of those unfortunate things when someone passes away. A lot of people do go back and watch a lot of their old stuff and maybe gain an appreciation for people. So hopefully we'll see that over the next few weeks as more people going back, watching some of his classic stuff, discovering some new stuff, and we'll see.
Yeah,
the network also, maybe has some stuff in the archives they can pop out too.
Yeah, there's so much of course, like the in-ring that you can focus on, but towards like the tail end of his career when he kind of got out of the ring, I thought he was just such a great manager for Vader. Like he just seemed like the perfect kind of the grizzly veteran that has found his new monster in Vader, and I always thought like that was such a great pairing that those two had in the early 90s in WCW.
Yeah, and that voice especially, that just made it all that much better. Just him on the outside being like, come on, Vader, do it. This play was the perfect.
And doing some of those great the campy vignettes that they would do with Vader, and then you'd have like Harley in the midst of it all.
Yeah, yeah, it was perfect stuff. Yeah, no, you're right. That's probably where I know of him more, and then it ended up becoming as I grew up, and obviously, being able to, with the internet, being able to watch more stuff, classic stuff, with the bit more of his actual wrestling, because I knew like his late WWF stuff, which is obviously not great. His body was breaking down at that point. But what I really appreciated was, his managerial roles. And then that really, like you said, the stuff with Vader was just awesome.
Well, I did want to shift over to the G1 Climax, and you guys, as always, killing it with great coverage yourself, Joe Lanza, the whole team at Voices of Wrestling, and just wanted to get some of your overall thoughts as we head into the big Osaka shows this weekend. Kind of a tale of two blocks right now, where you've got Kazuchika Okada, who's been the unbeatable top point getter in the A block, and then the B side, like, yes, we have Moxley on top, but a lot more parity there in the middle with the 7-way tie coming out of today's Fukuoka show. But just tell some of your kind of broad strokes opinions early on of the G1 as we've passed the midway point of the tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, the first few nights felt like, oh my God, we're on the pace to have like an all-time great tournament. That's not saying that we aren't having a really, really good tournament. I think we absolutely are. But you start seeing people starting to slow down a little bit as this tournament's kind of going a little bit more kind of story-heavy things. Like, I just watched this morning's show a few hours ago, and that was, there was some really, really good matches in there in terms of like, Cobb and Shingo was awesome, and Goto and Ishii were awesome. But you see like Naito maybe kind of taking it a little easy, Jay White, Taichi kind of taking it a little bit easy. Now we're into the Moxley stage where now he's going to presumably start taking some losses. So we're going to see a little bit of a different work in there. So it feels like for a while there, we were on the pace to like, oh my God, they're not going to be able to keep up this pace. And that's kind of shown itself too. That's not to say when it's all said and done. We always talk about this during every G1 is that there always hits like a little bit of a lull, and then we all go, oh no, that's it. It's never going to be good again. Or, oh, it's, everyone's slowing down. But they always ramp it back up for, the big shows like this weekend. I anticipate some pretty big shows. And then obviously going into next week, going into the finals and the block finals, we get right back on track there. But no, I mean, it's all been pretty fun. And I think the scenarios that we've laid out right now have made it really interesting too. Like every night and every day now, I either wake up or I try to stay spoiler free to try to kind of get an idea of what's going on with, especially the B block. I mean, the A block kind of, like you said, you have Okada at the top and you sort of presume that he's going to be in the mix till the final night. You have Ibushi, who presumably will get into that mix and potentially win the block. He's my pick to win the block. Kenta, who's obviously done, I think, a lot better than all of us expected. There's a lot of fun in the A block. The B block's like total madness because you have Moxley at 10 and you know that he, I guess, has to start losing unless they've just gone nuts and said, you know what, screw it. Moxley's the B block champion. And then you have Naito, who, needs to scratch and claw now and win every single time to get to that final or to get to that block final. So it's going to be super interesting on the B block is that like every result in the B block is going to matter so much. And there's such a microscope on it because we all have this scenario in our mind of either it being Naito or even, the long shot Jay White. But like both those guys have just a super long uphill climb to get there. Whereas Moxley now, I presumably just have, I think he does have to lose everything here on out. And that seems kind of strange too, that like, I get the Yano loss this morning. That was like one that you could probably have read, from the beginning, but like the rest of these, he's going to have to lose a lot of matches going forward. It just seems so weird given the streak he was on. So I'm fascinated by the B block and the scenarios that play out.
Who have been your standout performers, and also let's hear your standout matches thus far, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, stand-up performer. I mean, you got to say Tomohiro Ishii. I think is probably my number one, and that seems kind of nuts because Kota Ibushi and Ospreay, I think, have had incredible tournaments too. But I mean, Ishii is just like he personifies everything I love about the G1. It's just like every match is he lives and dies by the win, and he doesn't always win. But this has been a fun year to just see him just go all out and just every single match he's just doing everything he can to get the win. So I always appreciate Ishii around G1 time, and it's weird like. I think sort of, I don't want to say underrate Ishii, but I think maybe underappreciate Ishii. And then the G1 comes and everybody's like, oh yeah, this guy's like one of the best wrestlers in the world. And he's been doing it for years now in the G1. So he's almost, he's at a point now where you can almost call him one of the best wrestlers, of this generation too. Cause it's just like his G1 performances are just nuts. So he's definitely stood out and been some of my favorite matches. I mean, as far as some other ones, I mean, Ishii and Moxley, I think is probably my favorite match of the whole G1, which is weird because there's probably matches that like technically were a little bit better, but there was no match that I was just like enthralled with as much as Ishii and Moxley, like where they're at each other's throats before the bell even rings, and that's stuff that I just absolutely love about wrestling. And Ibushi and Ospreay, of course, speaks for itself. That's one that is going to emerge as probably the top one of the G1 or maybe the top rated one of the G1, and actually a sleeper match that I've been telling a lot of people that I really really love that I didn't hear a whole lot of talk about maybe because it kind of got lost in the early days. Was Juice and Shingo, which I loved. I think it was night one, right? Was it? I forget exactly what night it was. Night one or night
I think
two.
that was the Oat Award
night.
Gym show. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. I forget who had the block first. I think it would have been night two, maybe then for the B block. But no, I mean that match is like one that I think I want to rewatch once the G1's over because I feel like it's kind of got lost in the shuffle. But then I keep going back to it. It's like, man, no, I really really like that match a lot. And again, it's had that same sort of vibe that I've liked with Ishii, where those guys are just going all out, trying to win. And another MVP as well. I think Shingo has been awesome too. He's now unfortunately eliminated in the B block, but I think it's been a great showing for him. And if there's any sort of plans, which I assume there are, to move up to heavyweight, there's no issue right there. You feel like he's going to slide into the heavyweight and just emerge as another one of the awesome amount of stars that New Japan has right now.
What was your read kind of on Jon Moxley coming into all of this? Like, certainly we had kind of the indication after the Juice Robinson match at Sumo Hall last month in June, but was this kind of meeting your expectations, or has he greatly exceeded them for you?
I honestly think he's greatly exceeded. I'll be honest. Like, I kind of thought he would take a little bit of time to sort of, get into motion and kind of feel himself a little bit. But it's like, man, he's taken it, perfectly. I think he's been able to sort of meld his different styles. Like we saw the Yano match this morning, which is, he's great at comedy and great at sort of working that style. We've seen him work kind of the bruiser style with Ishii. We've seen him work a bunch of different things. He's been technical and needs to be technical. He's been, a little bit more, like I said, a brawler, a little bit more comedy when he needed to. And I think that kind of surprised me. I thought he'd be a guy that would maybe take a little bit longer to get going. When we talk about like the A block, like Kenta, I feel like Kenta's a guy who now little by little you're starting to see him sort of feel himself a little bit, get his legs under him, started getting a feel of what he wants to be. Whereas like Moxley, I thought that was going to be the Moxley thing. I thought by this point we'd be like, all right, now Moxley's getting going. Okay, now he's kind of starting to feel himself. But he was like from the opening bell, he's been great. So I'm stunned by how great he's been. So he's absolutely exceeded my expectations.
Someone that I've like every time I'm expecting like a loss to come his way, I've just been proven wrong with Okada. Like I've been very surprised at just how strong he's been booked coming out of the gate. For Ibushi to still be alive at Budokan Hall, he's got to lose at least one of these matches coming up. What do you see as the kind of trajectory for Okada over the next 2 tournament matches? He's got Sonata on Saturday in Osaka, and then Evil. Do you see him losing one of those matches, both of those matches? None of those matches, because none of those scenarios would stun me at this point.
Right. Yeah, no, it is. And that's the thing with Okada is it's so interesting to kind of book his G1s these days, because you sort of, especially this year, I assumed, okay, I knew he'd be at the top, but I thought he'd be at least kind of fighting for that top spot or, in the mix for the block win. But he's like, 12 points right now at the next closest at 8. He's like pulling away. So you'd imagine scenario wise that he probably has to drop at least one of those. But like you said, if you told me, hey, do you think Okada's going to win both of those? I couldn't make a bet on any of those scenarios that you mentioned and feel confident about it, because I feel like any one of those are totally possible. I mean, with Sonata being eliminated, I guess less so that you would want to have, Okada lose to Sonata, but he's going to have to start getting some losses here if that scenario plays out with Ibushi like we think it is. And that's one of the issues that you kind of have when you come with the G1 is, and I do this, and I'm sure you guys do too, is when you get into it, you kind of think, okay, here's my final, here's who I think is going to win. And you sort of tailor all your expectations based off that. And it's possible that, like, I don't know, Okada wins the block, or like Okada wins the G1. Like, I don't know, maybe like it'd be really weird. And I don't think that's the way I would go about it. But the way he's been booked, I mean, it seems super strong. So at some point he's going to have to start taking losses. I could definitely see a loss to Evil this weekend. I think that's one that kind of plays into how they've booked Okada in past G1s, where like lost to Bad Luck Fale, lost to some of the bigger guys. I could absolutely see that. The Sonata one, less so, but I suppose, like you said, it's so weird. I could see all 3 of those scenarios having like an exactly equal amount of chance of happening without, feeling confident about any one of them.
At this point, Rich, I guess compared to what you originally had predicted, well, what did you originally have predicted as your final and your block winners?
Yeah, so I had Ibushi coming out of the A block and Naito out of the B block, with Naito winning and obviously, avenging his loss at Wrestle Kingdom 12. And I still think I'm on that trajectory, and I feel like it's still a possibility, but the confidence level is pretty low. That it felt like a mortal lock at the beginning of the G1, and now it feels like there's so many other scenarios that can play out. I still probably, if I was a betting man, I would say probably still the scenario I'd go with, but it's like I said, the confidence is definitely waning on that, just because there is Okada there is the potential of a Moxley, even though I think I'd be really surprised by that, or even someone like a Jay White or whatever. But I still think if I was going to bet it, I'd probably go with Ibushi and Naito, with Naito emerging as a winner.
I think as well over the next week, and the handling of Moxley and kind of this second portion of the tournament as well. Like this guy has been booked so strong that it tells me this is not a guy that they just, hey, we've got him for the summer, we've got him for this tournament, and then we lose him in the fall. It just seems like this guy is being handled with such care that this is someone that you would assume New Japan has plans for and the ability to utilize beyond once AEW starts weekly.
Absolutely, yeah, and in the same breath, kind of Kenta as well, because there
Sure.
was this sort of worry at the beginning that, like, hey, Kenta's not really locked in. Like, they've just kind of said, hey, he's coming into the G1, but because he's gotten wins over Okada, and he's gotten big wins over guys, that it's like hard to believe that you would have him beat the people he's beat, and then just say, okay, well, that was fun. All right, see you later. Go, and then same thing with the B block, where like you can't fathom that they would book Moxley this well, and then just go, all right, that was great, that was fun. See you later. So. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he has been, and I imagine like he looks like he's having the time of his life too. I hate to kind of project, what he looks like, but I mean, I feel like he is. You watch those post-match interviews, especially, and this seems like a guy who finally feels like he's loving wrestling again, and that would be awesome to see him be. Even if it's not a full-time thing, it's hard to expect a full-time thing, obviously with AEW.
Yeah.
But you hope he's a guy that maybe similar to Jericho, or maybe even a little bit more than Jericho, who comes in quarterly, comes in a few times a year. and jumps in and does stuff, because he's a guy who, just by sending in, and again, similar to Jericho, just by sending in a Twitter a video or just sending in a YouTube, like he can push and get you ready for a match just by talking. He doesn't have to be there. He doesn't have to, be doing that stuff every single week. So I would say if they have the opportunity to use them, and it feels like they kind of do by, like you guys said, the way they booked them, I would welcome Moxley, and of course I would welcome Kenta, becoming full-time, roster members, or at least semi regular roster members.
What do you see for somebody like Lance Archer, who I think a lot of people are considering to be a breakout star of this tournament, perhaps impressing a lot more than even, the way his record seems to indicate? What do you see for him coming out of the G1?
Yeah, and we always had kind of thoughts about this as well, because he played a huge role in promoting the Dallas show locally, and we always kind of wondered, okay, if and when they, Archer always felt like the guy that they probably had a little bit more faith in, a guy that's been sort of a loyal company guy, a guy that's helped them out when he could, and always seemed kind of like the bigger breakout guy. It's nothing against Davey Boy Smith. I just always kind of felt like they, New Japan, felt that Archer probably had a little bit more to give them. And, it's kind of happened because obviously with Davey Boy is broken off and left. And I think it's a great opportunity for Archer in the next, 6 months or whatever. I don't know that he's ever going to be like IWGP heavyweight champion mix or whatever, but I don't see why he can't be a never guy. I don't see why he can't be, an IC guy or be, another decent a single star. I mean, they're kind of like, what's weird though is the company is so lacking in sort of top tier teams that you would sort of say, hey, the easy idea is let's put Archer with somebody else. But I almost think he's kind of outgrown that, and I'd like to see him get not a huge run, but maybe a little bit of a never open weight, title mix, or maybe an IC title mix or something like that. And I got to imagine they at least see something of that in him. I mean, like you said, the results don't really show it in this G1, but he has been sort of publicized and sort of pushed, in commentary and in a lot of the stuff they've done, as a guy who is sort of breaking out, quote unquote, as a single star. So I'd like to see it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they feel for him, but I think he absolutely can be in the never IC mix.
As you're looking at the months ahead, Rich, it's kind of interesting to look right now at the relationship between New Japan and Ring of Honor, that they had this huge build up to the Madison Square Garden show, and it felt like this really high moment. But going into that show, I think people anticipated coming out of it that it's going to be a decline after this. Now, as you're seeing New Japan returning to the US for pure New Japan shows and seeing the demand for these shows, what do you see as the future of this relationship, which I've been surprised it's lasted as long as it had, and it's been, both sides have worked with each other pretty in sync, but it seems that right now there are some questions about what is New Japan getting out of this relationship if they can come to the US and draw as they are with just pure New Japan shows.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is the thing that I like you thought, this is going to last like a year or so until New Japan has the confidence that they can run shows on their own. And it's obviously lasted way longer than I anticipated as well. But I think we're maybe starting to see that. I don't know if MSG sort of gave them an idea that, hey, we're kind of we're the ones kind of running this thing here. Yes, the Ring of Honor is on the marquee, but like we're the ones with the big matches. We're the ones with that we think the fans are drawing. Obviously, anybody who attended the show or watched the show live knows that the New Japan matches were the ones that it felt like most of the audience was into, and the Ring of Honor ones, had their fans, no doubt, but a lot of the people felt like they were there for New Japan and not for Ring of Honor. And maybe New Japan finally had the confidence to say, hey, let's try it on our own and let's do it. And this was always the weird part of that relationship, is like you said, it always felt like New Japan was the more powerful of the two, and that sort of they could kind of drive the relationship the way they wanted. And now with them sort of just saying, hey, we're going to run shows on our own, and Ring of Honor not really being in a position to say, hey, you guys can't do that, or hey, we're in a partnership, because New Japan just saying, oh, well, then we're done with the partnership. So Ring of Honor kind of has to, I guess, in a way, keep it up or keep up the facade that they're in this relationship. But then, I see the news a few days ago that, Global Wars is going to be with CMLL this year and not New Japan. So I don't know if it's just a thing where in a weird relationship where they just kind of stop talking to each other and then it just goes away without us really knowing about it, or if there's going to be one big moment where it's like, all right, New Japan and Ring of Honor are no longer partners, and it's now I don't know, but it's so weird with these next few months with New Japan just running their own shows. And I think most telling about that too is not that they're just running their own shows, and you sort of mentioned this as well, that they're running in Ring of Honor markets. They're running Ring of Honor arenas by themselves, basically getting the intel from Ring of Honor for years and going, okay, cool, thank you. We now know how to price our tickets, where to go, what arenas to do. We appreciate it. Okay, bye. And now just kind of going on their own. And Ring of Honor kind of being in a position where they can't really stand up to them because they don't really have any leverage to do that either. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just New Japan, doesn't return the calls anymore, or what ends up happening. But it's really weird right now. It's kind of like uncomfortable to watch it from afar.
Well, and as well, I mean, we're talking on a Thursday. We're 8 days out from the summer supercard that they're doing up here in Toronto, which was initially promoted as ROH, New Japan, CMLL, and NWA. We know NWA is out of the picture, but I mean, 8 days out, there's been no New Japan talent that's been announced for that show yet either. It's like there's CMLL representation, but I don't know, adding New Japan talent on less than a week's notice. Like there's been nothing.
Yeah, that's weird. I completely forgot about that show, I'll be honest. Even running down, a list of SummerSlam events or SummerSlam weekend events. Yeah, that's really bizarre because they have, and they really, I don't think Ring of Honor's done a very good job of promoting it all that much either. And maybe that's by not by accident, like an intention to not sort of bring light to it. But you're right, like we would already, I mean, they know who's not on the G1. They should have, New Japan would have known the amount of talent, or Ring of Honor would know the list of talent that they could choose from if New Japan gave them that list. And it would just be completely irresponsible for Ring of Honor not to promote that talent. So I don't know, that, like you said, that might be the moment where we kind of go, oh, this thing is done now. If like there's not New Japan presence there, if there's not, sort of stuff going on, I guess you sort of know from that show. So maybe we'll know in 8 days, what's actually going down with this relationship. But yeah, it is real icy right now, and I completely forgot about that. So that's a great point.
Friday, we've got the big on sale date for the TNT debut at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. What's kind of your sense of what we're going to expect? Is this going to be continuing in the trend of AEW's big shows? Do you see, a strong output, but not a sellout? What's kind of your feeling on this on sale on Friday? Because it's going to be one that's under a microscope for sure. And I think just curious to see, there's going to be demand, just how much demand.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And everything AEW does right now is just under like a tremendous microscope because we're all just like peering in, and they don't have as much like in terms of shows. So we have to like kind of, microanalyze every little thing they do. And tickets are on sale, all this sort of stuff. It's been pretty fun to watch, but it's awesome. I love competition in the marketplace. It's been really cool. But my thought initially is I think that they're going to do well for this. I don't know if it's going to be like an immediate, like 30-second sellout or minute sellout or whatever that, All Out was. I think absolutely it's going to sell out if and when, by the time they run that show. And I think pretty quickly after the tickets go on sale. The big thing that I'm always looking at, I'm sure, and I know you guys have talked about it a little bit too, is now what's sort of the follow-up? What arenas do you run after this? How many tickets do you sell? Doing this on a weekly basis, I think you can absolutely say, hey, this event is coming up. Yeah, it's on a weekday. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's sort of just lumped in the middle of the week and it's not on a holiday or whatever. But I think enough people want to be there for that first moment. They want to be there for that historic show. It's similar to anything that AEW's done so far, where it feels like, oh, I need to be a part of this because it's like this inaugural thing. It's this first thing. So I think it's going to do well. Maybe it's going to be tricky to get people from all across the country, but I think maybe between DC and Philly and some other, cities around there, they could probably sell that thing out. And maybe some people do fly in, even though it's midweek. The big thing for me, though, that I'm looking at is now, okay, the week after that, like how then do you sort of sustain this and what sort of arenas are you running? Because it's completely unrealistic. Because I mean, Raw and SmackDown don't do it right now. Unrealistic to say that, hey, they can run basketball arenas every week and sell those out. Like, I mean, it's just impossible for that to be the case. So that's where I'm really kind of looking at is what sort of happens after this inaugural show, because I think this one will sell out. I don't know if it'll have, like I said, the crazy immediate demand that like All Out had, but I kind of think it probably will be similar, just because, you want to be seen, you want to be there for that first historic event. But week 7 of their TV, that's where I'm really like, okay, yeah, who are you going to be able to sell that across the country every single week?
Strictly looking at the TV product of AEW's, Rich, what are some of your biggest concerns that you might have leading to their first show that perhaps, seeing their prior output, you might not have the biggest confidence in?
Yeah, I mean, well, the librarians, first off, I would hope that they limit the I'm not a huge fan of the librarians or a lot of the stuff they've done in the pre-shows. I think for me, the thing I'm going to be most, I don't want to say worried about, but at least keep an eye on a little bit more is what has been kind of the perceived comedy stuff, a little bit more of like the being the elite style approach that they've had towards wrestling, which is like things like the librarians, things like just little things here and there that they've done that have been kind of, I don't know, I haven't really been super invested in. Whereas like the road to whatever, the road to All Out, the road to Fight to Fall, and like those sort of everything that they're doing there, I love, and I think would translate perfectly to TV for me. But I get the approach that they want to possibly take as well, that they want it to be a variety. They want a little something for everybody. But I mean, for me, like just what I'm talking about is like I don't really need the variety of like bad comedy wrestling, which I kind of think like the librarians are right now. So that kind of concerns me a little bit, is like how much of what I perceive sort of being the elite style wrestling versus like kind of the road to serious kind of the stuff that Cody's been doing, a little bit more of kind of the classic, Southern wrestling type approach they've taken. And I would say also the women's division as well. Like there's been some real highs with the women's division in terms of anytime that Joshi talent is in there. But there's been some lows too. Like I have not really loved a lot of the stuff that's involved the American or the North American women's talent either. The Brandy stuff has been fine, but like that's my other concern too, is because that's a real opportunity for them, I think, particularly with the Joshi talent, to really stand out from the competition. Is that they claim they have a revolution here, they claim they have an evolution or whatever, but like look at the talent that we have, look at how many great wrestlers we have from across the world in that women's division. And I feel like, I don't want to say they've like fumbled it so far, but there's been some good and some bad, and I'd like to see that sort of short up a little bit and have the booking of the women's division feel a little bit more together. But I just saw when we were getting ready to record that they said they're going to crown the women's champion on that debut show too. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to believe that, okay, now we're maybe going to get a little bit more serious about it. With that said, like, if Brandy wins because Awesome Kong, hits somebody, it's like a weapon or whatever, then I might be like, oh, I don't know. What approach are they going to take with the women? So I'd say, the two big things are how much of kind of the comedy tongue-in-cheek stuff, and then how will the women be booked? Because I think that'll be a key to really setting themselves apart from the competition.
Just before we wrap up, next weekend, just give me a sense of how crazy your weekend is going to be. I don't know how we are going to pull this off with with SummerSlam weekend coupled with the final 3 nights of the G1 at Budokan Hall from Saturday through Monday. What kind of coverage can we look forward to at Voices of Wrestling, and will you be alive come Tuesday morning?
Yeah, so I know. First off, I feel bad for you guys because it's in your town too. I know what that's like, with all-in shows or different things like in the hometown, is that you feel like you're kind of like talking to everybody, or I know you guys are doing a live show too. Like I can't even imagine how you're going to have the time.
Well, so you guys get it Survivor Series weekend, right? It's like Chicago. It'll be right in your backyard.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's going to be nuts. Yeah. Any of those wrestling weekends, it's like overwhelming. And like people coming to town, you feel like you kind of want to like talk to people. You try to do live. So it's exhausting. But yeah, in terms of what we're going to do at Voice of Wrestling, we're working on it right now, kind of getting assignments for everybody right now. But we'll have previews for all the big shows, including kind of a weekend, kind of weekend preview of all the big shows that are going on, all the indie shows that are going to go on. In addition to previews for obviously Takeover, SummerSlam, reviews of all the G1 shows. We also have a Patreon side as well that we're going to do weekly or daily, I should say, G1 updates going into the finals, after the finals, all that sort of stuff as well. So definitely a thing to check out at voiceofwrestling.com/Patreon. But yeah, it's going to be an insane weekend. And it's one of those weekends where like it's not only just the covering of everything, it's the watching of everything too, that you're like adding up the hours and you're like, yeah, it's not that hard to do a podcast. It's not that hard to, write a review or whatever, publish a preview, but it's like watching all this stuff that's just going to become overwhelming. But I love these weekends though. You know what I mean? Like this is the best thing ever, is that we get like so much great wrestling in a weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, we'll have you covered at Voice of Wrestling, as I'm sure you guys will at postwrestling.com as well. But yeah, we'll have previews, reviews of everything going on, and podcasts covering everything as well.
I think we should enjoy this particular period in this year, because I think next year in the same period with AEW doing as much as I'm sure they'll be doing, we'll be looking back and wishing that we had a week like this.
Oh, if AEW announces a 5-week summer tournament to go head up with the G1, it's just my head's going to explode at this point.
At that point I might just have to quit my job and do this thing, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. But yeah, it's these weekends are like, yeah, ultimately it's just a lot of really great wrestling, so it's hard to be too upset or complain. But yeah, it is tough when you're trying to cover this stuff and watch this stuff, and then also try to have like some semblance of a real life too. But I guess you have to just throw that by the wayside and watch wrestling instead.
Well, I encourage all of our listeners and viewers, go check out their excellent work at voicesofwrestling.com, and you can go follow along with their Patreon content, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Follow them, Voices Wrestling on Twitter. Rich, really appreciate you joining us. I'm sure we will do this again, and good luck next weekend. It will be challenging, but there's a lot of great stuff coming up next weekend that is going to be fun to cover.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
Thank you guys. And yeah.
We'll catch up at one of these spectacular weekends down the road at some point. So take it easy, Rich, and thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Have a great one. Take care.
All right, you too, Rich. Rich Kraetsch from Voices of Wrestling. And I know, Wai, for the first half of that interview, you were just like, your eyes were just like, oh my God, is everything working? It turned out fine.
Thank God, because I wasn't even sure that our live chat was getting the feed. But thank goodness everything is working. Like, you guys have no idea. It was like it was already 3:00 and I had no solution. Like, I was fully set on like recording this and uploading it afterwards. People were waiting in the chat room, and just, God, YouTube, please. Anyway, phone calls for the rest of the show.
Yeah, we'll do calls for the rest of the show. I really don't mean to like skip over.
We just found out like that was on top of everything.
That literally got Wai read that to me at 2:59 as we went on the air. So I'll be writing an extensive bio on Harley Race later today, but unfortunately that news just coming as we went live, and certainly we'll have a lot of coverage on Harley Race. Just a legendary figure in professional wrestling that crosses many different eras. Absolute iconic figure within the NWA and Kansas City. So we will be covering that as well. But let us go to the phone lines. We do have our first call of the show. You are on the air. Who is this that we are talking to?
This is MJ.
Hello, MJ.
Coming to Toronto for the live post show at the Candy Box 12 p.m. before SummerSlam.
Damn, we didn't even have to promote that, MJ. You did a fine job yourself. Yes. Earlier this week, we were told there were 4 tickets remaining. So I don't even know if there's any tickets left. So we don't even have to push this thing anymore. You people you've responded tremendously well. So MJ, I'm honored that you're coming all the way up to check out the show. I'm sure it's not the only reason you're coming, but we'll pretend that it is.
We have 1 ticket as of now.
1 ticket left. Oh my God. Who's out there?
Let's see if we could sell it before the Café Hangout ends. We'll see if we can sell that.
If you buy that last remaining ticket, folks, I will guarantee you, maybe we'll, me and Wai like sing a duet or something.
No, we won't.
No, we won't do that, but we'll take a picture.
A high five, though.
Yeah, high five, definitely. Maybe even a hug. But MJ, what's on your mind today? There's tons to talk about. Where do you want to go?
Tons to talk about. We're really just called to give the cheap plug. I'm actually coming to Toronto for Takeover, at the BDE tailgate. Your show, and I'm leaving before SummerSlam because you are not going to fool me into 7.5 hours in an arena one more time. I already did that at WrestleMania. I will not be fooled again.
So what's interesting is that they are promoting the kickoff to start at 6:00 instead of the regular 5 p.m. Eastern start time for these big 4 specials. And I don't know if that means that the back end of this show is going to be extended greatly, because we have a lengthy match lineup that's continuing to grow, and it's going to be I think it's going to be a late night. That's my prediction for SummerSlam.
I mean, this show is in our own backyard, and I'm honestly not really any more excited than I would be if it took place somewhere else.
Well, neither of us are going. That I'm aware of.
I mean, the issue is like us having to do the show afterwards too. But 7 hours just even sitting down and watching it, I'm just like seeing all these match announcements, a bunch that maybe
we'll go through them all. On. Yes.
But okay. Well, at the very least, MJ. Is there anything? What are you looking forward to on the show?
The 2 new matches that just got announced, or at least one that got announced, I think, officially, and one that got rumored. You got Goldberg and Dolph, which I don't know, did WWE contact you guys for guessing their storyline? I guess that's what they're doing now. They're shocked that people watch the television. And Brian and
the match is happening. They're gonna I guess shoot the angle to get Goldberg into the match, but that is happening. Do you like the matchup? Putting Goldberg in the match, does it feel special to have Goldberg attached to SummerSlam, or does it not do much for you, MJ?
I thought it was great. I'm a big Goldberg fan. I actually thought they shouldn't have announced it and just let it be out there. He shows up.
Well, they didn't. Let's be clear. They did not announce it themselves. So this is I think.
I thought I saw a promo for it. I'm sorry. I saw a fan graphic. I thought I saw an official graphic.
No official announcement as of right now. I mean, they could, but I think they'll shoot an angle for it.
That's great. Spear, Jackhammer, you're next on Monday. Dolph cuts a promo on Tuesday, a 1-week build, and it's probably one of the better builds for SummerSlam. And I'll say that if they do Roman and Bryan, and it's like, who tried to kill Roman, and Daniel Bryan is revealed as the murderer, great. I don't need more than that. I think the way they have too much television, simple build, like 1 or 2 weeks, that's it. You don't need to, kill things with repeated promos and repeated angles, I don't know, for the sake of it. I think if they can't get it concise, like on the Road to series that we're seeing with Cody Rhodes right now, and just do simple, short 1 week, 2 week builds, and then fill your TV with other good wrestling matches, because they really like watered down stuff. I think like the women's match at Mania was a great example. By the time we got there, it lost so much heat because you just had week after week after week of the same stuff. Keep it short and simple. Stupid.
I don't disagree with the premise, because I look at how over Cody and Dustin was at Double or Nothing, and that got 2 promos was what built that particular show up. In traditional booking sense, like, you should be able to map out months and it peaks for a big showdown, but sometimes it's you overkill and you script stuff to death that by the time you get there, it doesn't have that same edge to it. So I don't necessarily disagree, other than with who killed Roman. It's more like who mildly inconvenienced Roman Reigns at the end of SmackDown as he literally brushed it off and walked away. So I don't know if the malice may have been there, but the execution maybe could have been questioned as Roman literally got up and just, it was like this guy had been hit by a gust of wind.
Well, we're not going to do that blood and guts stuff on SmackDown Live.
No.
Speaking of blood and guts, on the Road to series, I don't know, I froze that whiteboard because they had a bunch of things written on it, and one of them was more blood and guts, and I thought that was a great subtle way to like put it in there. I thought the
clever.
DCE would have been over the head.
Yeah.
If you freeze it, they had like Pentagon and Phoenix contracts, they had TNT standards and practices, they had more blood and guts, they had checkbox next to all these things, like with like empty boxes. So I guess they're like trying to do all these.
They're really great Easter eggs that they used the whiteboard for. I like it.
Hey MJ,
It's tremendous.
I wanted to ask you because we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week. But what do you make of the WWE stock's performance following the Q2 press conference last week?
Yeah, thanks. I tweeted something at John in the Brandon Howard, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I tweeted something. There were 2 big things that I took away that like don't really ever get talked about. One is the consumer products, the consumer sales, and their kind of downward trend now that we've seen a few quarters in a row. And I think I mentioned this the last time we spoke, right? The rise of the independent merch, the rise of AEW's merchandise. I'm surprised that no analyst digs into that, because I think there's clearly a correlation. I'd be curious to hear what the WWE's position on that is. Hard to say that they're not competition when you have a downward trend and you see these other independent outlets kind of rising up the ranks, getting deals in retail stores like Hot Topic. The other piece is that, yes, they're losing some of that revenue, but like, I'm really interested by this Netflix partnership. I'm really interested in the A&E stuff.
Yep.
Like, they're just getting their content everywhere, and content rights is what's driving the stock, what's driving the company's bottom line at the moment. We saw that with the TV rights. So where else can you get guaranteed money that's not based on ratings or consumer products? It's through more of those content fees. We've seen it work with the reality shows. If we can see it with the documentary series on A&E, maybe they get involved more with HBO, seeing that the Vice stuff is really taken off. They want to do their version of that. And the Netflix stuff, which Netflix is always in the market for content. And I think Glow has demonstrated that, Glow is not a wrestling show per se, but like there's an audience for it. And maybe there's an audience for more stuff that WWE can produce and make that films department like worth something. Because I don't know, it's got to be a loss leader at this point.
I think it's one of the better strategies WWE Studios has had in a while is partnering up and licensing content out there and working with other studios and services like Netflix. Like, Netflix is certainly in the market right now to be acquiring content, and WWE is more than happy to produce and sell their content. And if Netflix is looking at Glow as a big success, it's a natural to segue over to WWE, where they've got 2+ million people every Monday night to promote a Netflix project, which I'm sure that Big Show project is going to get tons of promotion on the WWE's end. So that's a really interesting partnership to look at and see what the response is like, because it's going to be a very different series than Glow.
Thanks for the call, MJ.
Yeah, see you guys next week.
Thank you, MJ. We should talk about the additions to SummerSlam. So the match that will be added is Bill Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler. Not sure exactly when they'll be setting that up, but that is the planned match. And do you like the direction that they're going with this?
I think I'm honestly surprised that it would take place at SummerSlam and not, something you would say for Fox, for instance. I thought it'd be more of a long-term thing. How will they pivot from what they've already announced right now with Miz versus Dolph to Dolph versus Goldberg? It's a good addition to SummerSlam. Does SummerSlam need it? I don't necessarily know. I mean, it will be a match that you would expect to be incredibly short. So maybe they have something else for Goldberg.
Well, that's it. If Goldberg runs through him, which I think is the way to do this, and I don't have a big deal with Dolph Ziggler getting killed in 90 seconds.
That's his role.
It's going to be a huge pop at the Scotiabank Arena, and naturally, there needs to be some follow-up. I think if Goldberg comes in and kills him, and I would not waste him in those kind of the lame duck period that is SummerSlam until going to Fox. Yeah. And I would have him on that debut show, and just Goldberg doing a squash match on Fox. I think that is something that there is a nostalgia to it, and you could also lead to something.
Yeah, there's a part of me that just like is so sad that we're still relying on a 20-year-old nostalgia act, in modern day professional wrestling. Like think of like Nitro.
What was the go-to for a rating spike? Way it was a whole show around this stuff.
I'm just saying it's just kind of the state of like, these are our cards, a card from 20 years ago that we have to pull out. So I mean, on SummerSlam though, I do like it, provided that it becomes a short match, and I think Goldberg has the type of performance that we expect of him.
I like the card for SummerSlam. Like it feels like a big show. There's some special attractions on it. I think that largely I like the Lesnar Rollins attack this past week. Like I'll
tell you what's weird though. Okay, if we're to believe, I guess what's been reported by Dave so far, and that's Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross being injected into that women's tag team match with the Kabuki Warriors and
Rose and Deville and the Iconics.
The Iconics. Why did Alexa Bliss pin the challenger for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Ember Moon, on Thursday?
And Corey Graves immediately said she should be in the title match.
Yeah,
when she pinned her.
Now, we haven't seen it played out. It has not been announced yet, but
there's been no connection on TV yet of Bliss and Cross to that match. I guess that's something they could do, but it's been the other three teams that they've kind of dangled that out there. So that has not officially been announced. But yeah, Dave Meltzer reported like the updated card, including that match and several others as well. It's like a pretty packed card, given the fact that they're promoting a shorter than usual kickoff show.
Yeah,
that there's a lot of matches on this show.
Let's go to our next phone call. You're on the line on the Café Hangout.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Oh boy, Brandon.
Another traveler SummerSlam weekend. Oh man, the laugh is coming, and it's not Hugh Morris.
What's going on, man? I'm excited, man.
Honestly, I'm happy. I'm happy to hear the laugh because I like minutes before we started the show, I didn't even know if we would have phone calls. So I'm actually happy to hear your laugh today, Brandon.
Well, I'm glad I could put a smile on that face of yours, way. Thank you.
What's on your mind?
No, I'm just excited for the weekend. Next weekend, I've always wanted to go to your country.
What are you going to do outside of coming to our live show, Brandon, in Toronto?
Yankees played the Jays. I wanted to visit the spot where Joe Carter hit the bomb and Jose Canseco hit the home run on the upper deck. I wanted to see this. The game itself is whatever.
Now's a great time to go to a Jays game because they'll probably pay you to come to the Rogers Center to watch the Jays play right now. As they're 506 games out first.
You could probably play for the Jays.
You might get drafted, Brandon.
Yeah.
Come on, Vladdy Jr., Kevin Biggio, let's go, man. Bo Bichette, come on.
Look at this. Brandon speaks as somebody who's probably watched a lot of Toronto TV, I feel.
Hey, is Colby Covington going to make easy work of Robbie Lawler? Do you see a tough challenge here for Colby Covington? What do you expect from Robbie Lawler on Saturday?
In front of Donald Jr. too. Oh, I can't wait till
Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump are going to be attending this fight in your neck of the woods. Brandon, are you going to the card in Newark?
I'll be in Toronto.
No, it's just on Saturday. It's tomorrow. In 2 days.
Okay. But isn't there a card next weekend too?
There's always a card every weekend, but I knew you weren't going to Uruguay next weekend to watch Valentina Shevchenko and Liz Carmouche. But I figured Brandon from New Jersey might be going to the card in New Jersey that's happening in 2 days from now with Jim Miller and Clay Guida.
And Mike Bond.
Mike Bond is at every single card.
Is he fighting too?
No, he hasn't even made the Contender Series yet.
No, I won't be going, sadly. But I think Don Jr. is going to be very disappointed when Robbie Lawler not.
Can I say I'm honored that the UFC isn't getting Brandon in New Jersey's attendance, but we are at our live show in another country the following weekend. Yeah. I mean, who are the key draws in this industry but me and Way?
And don't forget O'Grady's, too.
Are you coming to O'Grady's?
I'm thinking about staying in the because I got the whole week off next week, so the following week after that.
You've got to check that off bucket list. A landmark here in Toronto. O'Grady's Tap and Grill, 171 College at McCall. Monday night, live Raw screening. Wai Ting in the house. WH Park in the house.
Maybe a bit of trivia.
Greg Oliver's going to be there selling his brand new book, The Storytellers. And man, Brandon from New Jersey might usurp everyone. He will put him at the top. Brandon, there will be people that will want photos with you if you show up at O'Grady's.
Get the hell out of here. I think WH Park might want to fight me.
WH Park, no. WH Park, he puts on a pretty angry demeanor, but he's a teddy bear.
We'll see on Saturday before NXT.
He might make fun of what you're wearing, but he does that to everybody, inclingdon't So don't take that.
I'm a dressed man. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right.
And one more thing real quick. I get out of here. What do you think of the NXT class for September? I mean, they got enough people already, but I heard there's rumors that this class might blow it all away, like with King Cuerno and the other rumored people. What do you think about that? That's crazy. I don't know how these guys are going to get on TV unless they go mano a mano on FS1 in the fall.
Yeah, I think it's like they're going to continue to always funnel in talent and figure out afterwards. But yeah, there's definitely like a glut of like so many talented guys there that are under that roof that there's only so much television time. And I think it's like, I don't have a great solution to it beyond expanding the length of the show, which I'm not crazy about. I like NXT at 60 minutes, but it depends what is the function of this. Is it to simply showcase a great 60 minutes, or is it to get inexperienced guys more television time as well and feature more people? Like this is a takeover card that I mean, Matt Riddle isn't even figured onto this takeover card. Like that tells you like the limited spots that they have available for each takeover. They're limited, and there's going to be way more guys that are kind of lost in that shuffle than are going to be featured. So I don't have a great answer for you, but it's only going to be compounded with more guys coming in.
You call it a glut. I call it they might need a pacemaker because they're talent rich and they don't know what to do with it either. It's sad. All right, that's all I got.
We'll see in Toronto next weekend, Brandon.
Oh, definitely. No doubt.
All right. Let's keep it going with the calls.
Up next here, I believe we have a gentleman by the name of Neil. Neil, you're on the line. What's up?
Hello. How's it going, you two?
Very well.
First time caller.
Yeah.
First time caller, long time listener. Welcome.
Exactly. Yes. Long time patron.
Thank you. Where are you calling from, Neil?
Northern Ireland.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yeah, just not too far from Belfast. I've been a huge fan of pro wrestling for years and all the rest of it. I don't think I need to go into a massive introduction of myself.
But, no. Your resume checks out. Don't worry. If you're a patron, you're in.
Yeah, I mean, well, my first contact with you guys was really over here. Of course, the pay-per-views don't finish until about 3 or 4, and these days 5 or sometimes after 5 a.m. So, but then I would switch over to the Law back in the day, and of course it would be the Mouth and so on presenting. But you guys would, pitch in at the end, especially in the podcast version of the show, and so then you did your kind of almost, don't know how to describe it, indie version of the show for a while, which you had to find the RSS feed for. We
were like Conan in the earlier days, following Letterman at the end. We'd just be like the wacky show that the real diehards would check into.
Yeah, well, not to blow smoke, but it was probably my favorite part of the podcast in those days. When you guys went out on your own, I was delighted, and wanted to follow. So I just thought, I as a consumer of what you do, I feel like I don't contribute much on the forum, and I've never really called in. And I just thought, well, I should, if for no other reason than I appreciate all that you do, because it's a fantastic product.
Thank you so much, Neil. Is there anything in the current events or anything that we've been talking about that might be on your mind?
Recently, I mean, you've talked about what you're going to do in the autumn when SmackDown moving to Fridays, the weekly AEW show, AEW pay-per-views, and everything that's already happening with New Japan, and
Yeah, it's
UFC for you, really? I mean, what do you really? You've obviously must have given it some thought. What are you going to do? Are you going to be able to farm out some of the coverage to maybe the up next guys, or you know?
Well, yeah. First, I want to again thank everybody for feedback on our forum about our schedule. I always love to know what you guys are listening to, and what, if we had to give up one of our shows that are currently in rotation, what that would be. And I'm thinking like a lot of the people are saying maybe if we had to give something up, it would be something like the double shot. And
Yeah.
so if we did give that up, we would probably obviously, anytime there's something relevant that we would have to talk about, we'd probably try to fit it in the body of other shows. But I think if we had to carve one night out of the week or sacrifice one show, it might be that one, and then replacing that one with an AEW show. And therefore, our schedule, other than, perhaps having to switch things around so that we stay in certain nights, won't necessarily change that much. Our workload won't necessarily change that much. We probably have to do an extra pay-per-view a month because of AEW. But
Yeah.
I think it's manageable. I think it's certainly very manageable for us John and I to handle everything. Braden debut continue to do up next. We'll see what the WWE might offer with this like tiered system. And whether or not it means that there are more shows that need to be covered. And whenever that happens, maybe, we'll open up discussions again.
Yeah. I mean, my suspicion is that if there are extra shows on a higher tier, they're likely to be the kind of Smackville.
Yeah.
Or mean anything.
Yeah. Or Evolve, perhaps, any of those things. We'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Neil.
Well, you're very welcome. Just wanted to say hi and keep up the good work. Thanks very much. And just do you guys work on your broadcasting voices? Because they're both fantastic.
Oh, my. Wow.
When the mics turn off, me and Wai do our daily vocal exercises. We sing, we go through each consonant of every wrestler's name. It's very rigorous.
Neil, if you've listened to me like since the beginning, I'm certainly not a broadcaster. I'm some guy. Like I'm literally some guy that John pulled into the room without telling me that he was recording and recorded me. And therefore, that was our very first show. So if anything, I think maybe talking to him for a long time, I've obviously had a lot of practice doing this every single day. So maybe I feel a little bit more confident in my voice, but I'm certainly not somebody who, is natural like John.
Oh, you're very easy on the ear and well, baritone to your voice.
You're way too kind, Neil.
Yeah, I'm going to replay this call later just to lift up my spirits. Yeah. So thank you, Neil. It's very kind words, and thank you so much for calling in. Don't be a stranger. Call us anytime. I guess we're on in prime time in Northern Ireland. So
exactly, yes,
we appreciate the call.
It's 5 to 9 p.m. here, so it's it's perfect.
Thanks, Neil. Talk to you later.
Bye.
All right. Well, great call. We got some
great
calls.
What a nice guy. What a nice gentleman. Still more time for calls. We're not done yet. So if you want to reach us, a lot of calls today. I'm really happy. 1-732-800-4423 or search us on Skype, Post Wrestling.
I don't think we even gave out the numbers today.
I posted it on the thing, but yeah, people by now, a lot of these guys know.
They know it. Just a few things to quickly go through. As Rich mentioned, AEW has announced they'll crown their first women's champion on that debut television show. That follows match announcements. Cody versus Sammy Guevara.
Sorry, with the women's match, did they say who?
No, I assume they'll do something at All Out to set up the finals for the TNT debut or set up a match for the debut. Chris Jericho will have two mystery partners against Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. So I like that idea to have some speculation going into the debut.
Jericho also tweeted out that he would be, quote, bringing people in, or bring somebody in. So you would assume that it's not somebody that's already on the roster.
If he's said he's bringing them in, then yeah, you're going to have speculation about two new debuting performers to pair with him. And beyond that, those are the matches announced, plus a Jon Moxley appearance. So as we're like 24 hours out from this, do you think 24 hours from now, we're talking about a sellout for the Capital One Arena? Do you see it coming close, or do you think it's going to be kind of midway?
Oh, yeah. This one's I'm definitely less confident about than All Out. But I'm going to say not a sellout. But I think it'll be close.
I think it's going to be a really solid number, and there will be people that will take that as somehow some kind of negative because they don't sell out immediately, but I think it's going to be an incredible number to start with. And if they sell out, I'm definitely not going to be surprised because I've certainly underestimated some of these shows drawing, and All Out was as big as all of them. So if this sells out, I will not be stunned in the least.
Yeah.
Did you get to see the Road to All Out special?
I have not seen it this week yet.
It's great. Yeah. Tully Blanchard, he might be my pick for best on the mic this year.
Wow.
And it's been after like 3 episodes. He is fantastic. Like I talked earlier about the pairing of Vader with Harley Race, and dude, Tully was made for this role. Like I always loved Tully Blanchard, and him as like the old, like cagey veteran that's imparting now all his dirty tactics onto Sean Spears, and he's eyeing the contract, and he's fantastic. Like what a great addition by AEW. And what they did to set it up was that Cody will only be allowed to have one person in his corner at All Out, not his whole entourage like last time, because Sean will only have Tully in his corner. And that to me is going to raise suspicions that Cody is going to reveal somebody.
Oh,
like maybe it's not
already somebody who's part of his entourage.
I think someone to combat Tully, you would think.
Right.
So
now,
it's a great idea to, and I don't know like at all, but I'm just guessing here.
How fascinating. Are you surprised that somebody like Tully Blanchard hasn't been relied upon more until now?
It's a role WWE never uses. They never go to the old veteran role. Like even, I mean, the last time I can see them really significant with a major league act was Ric Flair with Evolution. But I mean, it's really something that they don't rely upon too much. And I think it was a great opening that here was Tully, and he's been phenomenal in these Road to the Road to series thus far. So I highly recommend that. And it's part of the thing I really like about AEW is that they are so effective in 6 minutes that what is the impact going to be of having a 2-hour show every week? And that there's because one thing AEW has going for it right now, following it, it's not a chore. It's a minimal ask among their audience to follow, get all the stories, and they do it in quick amounts of time. They leave you wanting more. And inevitably that's going to be different when you have 2 hours to produce every week. But in this reality of television rights being the be all end all, that's what they're shooting for. It's not to get a big deal on YouTube. It's to get a big television contract, and doing a 2-hour show is hopefully going to lead to that for them. Like that's the big play.
Yeah. I think there's still so little that we know about how they will produce their TV. You know, as Rich Kraetsch mentioned, how will they kind of handle the comedy elements that honestly, like, I don't think they should drop completely. You know,
you need some of that.
Certainly a place for it, but
it's worked for the audience.
It helped them get to All Out.
Yep.
Like a year ago, they only relied on being the elite, and that's where it got them to the dance in the first place. So I'm really curious to see how they juggle everything. I mean, they have a roster that is seemingly incredibly talented in ring, but I think a lot of people that a general audience isn't familiar with. So there's a lot of talent that they have to continue to build from scratch in many cases. How will they do all that? We know we can at least rely on, the very top end for in-ring, but it's everything else, the TV presentation, the tone, this kind of, wins and losses matter edict that Tony Khan seems to champion all the time. How is that going to look?
And I also want to make mention, because I don't know how many people are following 205 Live each week, but this week they did the unsanctioned match between Drake Maverick and Mike Kanellis, and Drake Maverick was awesome in this match.
Is that right?
Just playing the underdog babyface. His selling was tremendous. And then at the end, he makes the big comeback and wins with the acid drop to Mike Kanellis. It is not called the acid drop in WWE.
He beat Mike
Kanellis. So Mike Kanellis does not get the cruiserweight title shot. But man, Drake Maverick was awesome. And the crowd like popped for the finish by the end of this. And this was not it's a 205 Live crowd, but they got them by the end with Maverick's comeback. But it was Kanellis just destroying him for 3/4 of the match.
So this was an actual match with Drake Maverick.
Oh, it was like a 13-minute match,
which is, I think, incredible because like thus far he hasn't really been able to show that much in ring. Like even in that intergender match or anything, like he's just kind of been a guy who gets beaten up a lot. But the fact that he's actually now able to wrestle, I continue to be incredibly like astonished, really, at like the amount of like improvement amount of TV time he's got and his role continuing to increase since the beginning of this year.
And I mean, the only reference to like they are totally different characters on 205 Live, Mike Kanellis and Drake Maverick. The only reference was they showed Maria with the 24/7 title watching backstage, but that's it. Like they play totally different characters on 205 Live. So this match they couldn't have done on the kickoff show at SummerSlam or on the main roster because it's not their characters on Raw.
It's a multiverse, alternate universe.
Yeah, but I was really impressed in particular with Drake's performance on there. And the final thing before we wrap things up was the updated Takeover card for the Saturday night before SummerSlam. We've got Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, 2 out of 3 falls for the NXT Championship in a street fight, a professional wrestling match, and if it goes to a third fall, William Regal chooses that stipulation.
I'm really curious to know what that third fall is.
Maybe it'll be
reverse battle royal, please.
Marcus of Queensberry rules match, maybe. That Regal had
like
with
a boxing
Jericho.
Match?
Oh, that's what they did on a pay-per-view with Regal once.
Okay.
The Street Profits against the Undisputed Era for the NXT tag titles. Maybe winners also become the co-hosts of Raw. Imagine O'Reilly and Fish in those roles. Velveteen Dream, Pete Dunne, and Roderick Strong for the North American title. Shayna Baszler versus Mia Yim for the women's title. And Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai. And they'll also be doing the finals of the Breakout tournament that night with Cameron Grimes versus Jordan Miles. So
what are their old names?
ACH versus Trevor Lee.
Thank you.
Yes.
You know, I don't know if it's maybe the most attractive looking NXT card on paper. Obviously, the main event looks fantastic. The rest of it, I'm sure, will be excellent as well. I think simply by reputation and style and crowd and atmosphere.
Crowd will be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I have high hopes for Cole and Gargano. I think that's going to be like the big blow off to that program. Tag match, I never underestimate O'Reilly and Fish. And the Street Profits have gotten significantly better over the last year.
Yep.
Dream, Dunn, and Strong, it'll be laid out really well. And I think Dream really accelerates in those kind of situations. Dunn and Strong had a really good TV main event this week. And Baszler and Yim, that'll be an interesting one. They had a really good promo segment on this week's show. And then Io Shirai, I've really liked her as a heel so far since turning her. She's showing a ton of personality as a heel. And this is Candice LeRae's like first really, really big match and being on a takeover. So they're going to have the benefit of a really hot crowd that just elevates these matches. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good card. I imagine it's going to follow the trend of takeovers. But yeah, there's some, it's like you don't have Matt Riddle on this show. You don't have some of the, big players of past ones, but we'll see what is.
Tickets still available?
Tickets there. You can see the postering around the city. Like they are plugging hard NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. Like not SummerSlam. SummerSlam they're not worried about, but the others you can come by tickets. If you want to go, tickets are fine to come by. It's not sold out yet. So what do you think? Do you think you're going to go to any of the shows that weekend?
I'm thinking about actually going to SmackDown.
I'm on the fence about that one. I might, of all the shows, that's the one I think I can go to.
I might go to Takeover. It'll be a call.
Yes,
later on.
So next week on this show, we're probably going to be going through a ton of this, and we'll be in the midst of it. We will have G1 will be right down to the wire going into the final weekend. You and I are going to an OWE show together on Wednesday, a Wednesday at 4 p.m. show. I'm going to venture to guess this is the only time I'm going to go to a wrestling show, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, unless WrestleMania weekend starts super early in future years.
Wednesday at 4. They've done shows at Wednesday at 4, don't you think? They've started as early as Wednesday.
I guess some WrestleMania weeks, yeah. I guess as we've gotten over the last few years, maybe there's been that early of a show.
Wednesday at 4, yeah. Certainly a bit of an odd time, but thankfully maybe a day that we don't do this live show, so we can attend this OW show, which I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, we're going to go to WXW that week. I'm going to hopefully get out to the Progress show on Thursday night. So there's a ton of independent shows on top of all the WWE stuff in town and a lot of interesting matches. So we have that up on the site if you want to go see all the different shows. There's live shows going on, including ours on Sunday.
Yep, including the NXT tailgate party, which you can no longer get tickets
sold out.
However, you can still see perhaps most of us, I don't know about all of us, but most of us, at least John and myself, Monday at O'Grady's.
Yes.
Which
Monday night, we'll be doing a Raw screening at O'Grady's, which is 171 College at McCall, right by Queen's Park subway station. If you're not going to Raw in Toronto, you can come hang out with us. So looking forward to that. And that's about it. That is our SummerSlam weekend. And then it'll all be over by Wednesday morning.
And we'll take a huge nap.
Oh, I'll be done. I can't imagine like the G1 and SummerSlam stacked together. It's a lot, but then afterwards it's a bit of a little bit of a breather, as much as you get in wrestling. Wai, you are the MVP of the show.
Oh.
I thought this was one of our best Cafe Hangouts. I love this show.
I thought Rich was
Awesome
fantastic.
guest
Yep.
and some great calls.
Calls were great, incredibly complimentary. And you were excellent as well, John. Thank
I know.
you for holding down
I know.
the fort.
It was amazing. No. This was all Wai who puts this all together.
Stop.
Wai was trying to figure this out, and I just had to sit here because I had nothing to offer other than
a fantastic interview with our guest today, Rich Kraetsch. So thank you very much.
Rich is the man. Check him out, voicesofwrestling.com. They do great work over there.
Yeah.
Fantastic previews that they do of all shows and reviews as well. So go check them out. And as well, their Patreon is voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon.
Quick update on the feed front, just on a technical point. Those of you who have started to who have had your feeds work flawlessly have noted that your speeds are razor fast now, or razor fast even a thing? I don't even know.
It is now.
but they're very fast. Some people have been reporting issues with Apple Podcasts. We've been hard at work trying to fix those, and for the most part, I believe those issues are fixed. However, I think a good deal of it will still be trial and error. So please bear with us, at least for this week, as we sort everything out. You can always guarantee that postwrestling.com will be a place where you can stream all of these shows whenever you're expected to get them. Otherwise, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Apple, all these things, we should be up. One of these places you will get your shows.
All right. So that is going to wrap us up. Lots of shows coming your way, whether it be postwrestlingcafe.com, where we will be dropping G1 shows Saturday and Sunday, and go to postwrestling.com. Lots of free shows coming up over the weekend. And rest in peace, Harley Race, one of the greatest wrestlers on God's green earth.
I didn't even do the music this week. Next time. Bye-bye.